Have you ever felt like you just, hit a wall trying to learn something new, maybe?
Oh, yeah. We're struggling with a tough project at work.
Exactly. Or even just like trying to get good at a hobby and that little voice pipes up, ugh, maybe I'm just not cut out for this.
That feeling is so common. It's really easy to take those moments as, like, proof. Proof you've hit your limit.
But here's the thing. What if that voice, that reaction to the struggle, isn't really about your actual ability? What if it's more about how you think about your ability?
hmm
What if your core belief about your own potential is actually uh, shaping how you handle those exact moments?
That is precisely the idea we're diving into today. We're digging into Carol S. Dweck's really powerful book, Mindset, The Power of Potential.
It's a source that just fundamentally unpacks how much perspective matters.
It really does.
So our mission here really is to boil down the core concepts from this book, these two distinct mindsets Dr. Dweck talks about, and see how they show up everywhere. I mean, school, sports, the office, even relationships. Seriously, understanding this might just change what you think is possible for yourself.
It really shifts the focus,
Yeah.
you know? Less about the talent you start with and much more about how you actually develop it, how you engage with learning.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The foundation of Dweck's work, these two core mindsets, what are they?
So at the heart of it all, you've got the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. You can think of them as like two completely different ways people see themselves and what they're capable of.
Okay, let's tackle the fixed mindset first. What's that all about?
Well, someone with a predominantly fixed mindset believes their basic qualities, intelligence, talents, personality, they're just fixed traits, set in stone.
Like you get a certain amount and that's your lot.
Pretty much. And because of that, there's this huge drive to constantly prove you have enough. To prove you are smart, you are talented, validation is key.
So if everything's fixed, effort must seem kind of suspicious.
Absolutely. In the fixed view, if you are really smart or talented, things should come easily. Needing a lot of effort or struggling, that feels like evidence you don't actually have the goods.
Oof. So effort becomes a sign you're lacking something.
Exactly. It feels like inadequacy.
And failure. Oh man, failure must be brutal.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
Because in a fixed mindset, failure isn't just, oops, that didn't work. It becomes a reflection on you. I failed, therefore I am a failure.
Wow.
And since your abilities are fixed, that failure feels permanent. Like there's nothing you could do about it, which explains why people in this mindset often shy away from challenges, right?
Right.
Why risk exposing that perceived lack?
Yeah, that sounds incredibly stressful. Like you're constantly defending a static image of yourself. Okay, so what's the alternative? The growth mindset.
The growth mindset flips that whole script. It starts from a totally different belief.
Yeah.
It sees those same qualities, intelligence, talents, not as fixed, but as starting points.
Starting points.
Yeah. Your true potential isn't predetermined. It's something you develop. Through hard work, dedication, trying different strategies, learning from mistakes,
So instead of being scared of challenges,
you embrace them. Challenges are seen as opportunities, chances to stretch yourself, to learn something new, to get better.
and effort isn't a bad sign.
Effort is the path. It's the engine of growth. It's how you build your abilities. It's essential.
Okay, so the big one. How does the growth mindset view failure?
Failure is, well, it's information. It's not the end of the story. It's just valuable feedback about what didn't work this time.
Information.
Yeah. And a key concept here, really emphasized in the book, is the idea of not yet. You haven't succeeded yet.
Not yet. I love that.
It changes everything, doesn't it? Failure just signals, okay, maybe I need a different approach or more practice, or maybe I need to understand this deeper. It's not a judgment on your permanent capability.
That shift from I'm a failure to I haven't figured this out yet, that's huge. It's moving from identity to process. What about seeing other people succeed? How does that play out?
For someone with a growth mindset, seeing others succeed can be inspiring. It shows what's possible. It's like, wow, look what they achieved through hard work. Maybe I can learn from that. It's motivation.
Not a threat.
Right. Whereas in a fixed mindset, someone else's success can feel really threatening, like it highlights your own perceived limitations, makes you feel worse.
You can already feel how these two views would lead down completely different paths. One path is all about proving yourself, the other is about improving yourself.
That's a fundamental difference.
Yeah.
And the source material really dives into how this plays out in very practical, everyday ways.
Okay, let's zoom in on one of those. The book talks a lot about praise, especially praising kids. This research seems like a total game changer for parents, teachers, everyone, really.
Oh, it really is. It challenges a lot of common assumptions about how to encourage people. Dr. Dweck's studies on praise are incredibly revealing about how these mindsets actually get formed early on.
So tell us about the experiments. What did they do?
Okay, so basically, they'd give kids some kind of task, often moderately challenging puzzles. After the kids finished, they'd get praised, but in different ways.
Different types of praise.
Exactly. One group got praised for their intelligence. Things like, wow, you did really well. You must be smart at this, or you're so clever, praising the trait.
Okay, yeah, sounds pretty standard. Encouraging, right?
You'd think so. But then another group got praised for their effort or the process they used. Like, wow, you did really well. You must have worked really hard on that. Or I liked how you tried different strategies. Praising the action, the engagement.
Right. Process versus trait. And the results. This is where it gets really interesting.
Totally. The kids who were praised for being smart, they were much, much more likely to adopt a fixed mindset afterwards. Yeah. And then, when they were offered a choice for their next task, either an easier one they'd definitely succeed at again, or a harder one they could learn from, even if they might struggle.
Let me guess. They picked the easy one.
Overwhelmingly. They didn't want to risk doing anything that might challenge their smart label. They wanted to keep looking smart.
Wow.
And even worse, when they were given a difficult problem, one designed to make them struggle, the smart kids got discouraged much faster. They lost confidence, their performance dropped, and they were quicker to give up. Some even misrepresented how well they did afterwards.
So telling kids they're smart actually made them less resilient, less willing to take risks. That feels so backwards.
That does, doesn't it? But their focus shifted. Their goal became looking smart, protecting that identity, rather than actually learning or tackling challenges.
Okay, so what about the other group, the ones praised for effort?
They were the opposite. They were far more likely to develop a growth mindset. When offered the choice, they overwhelmingly chose the harder task, the one they could learn from.
They wanted the challenge.
Exactly. And when they hit that difficult problem, they saw it as part of the process. They stayed engaged longer, tried harder, used different strategies, and actually enjoyed the challenge more. They saw the struggle not as a sign of stupidity, but as a cue to ramp up their effort.
That is such a crucial takeaway. It's not about not encouraging kids, but about shifting what you praise. Focus on the effort, the strategies, the persistence, the learning process.
Precisely. That kind of feedback helps people, especially kids, connect effort with success. It helps them see challenges as, well, kind of fun, actually. And it fosters this deep love for the learning process itself.
And this isn't just about schoolyards, right? The book shows these mindsets playing out everywhere. Let's talk about sports, for example.
Yeah, the mindset of a champion idea really comes through. Think about athletes like Michael Jordan. People talk about his talent, sure, but the real story is his incredible work ethic.
Right, his relentless practice, always pushing himself.
Exactly. And his ability to use every mistake, every loss, as fuel. He was constantly driven to get better, to learn, to improve. He didn't just coast on talent.
So he clearly had that growth orientation. What about the fixed mindset athlete?
Well, you see athletes with amazing natural gifts, right?
Yeah.
But if they believe that talent alone is enough, if they don't put in the hard yards, listen to coaching, learn from setbacks, they often plateau.
They hit a ceiling.
Yeah. They might dominate early on purely based on that raw ability, but they don't adapt, they don't evolve, they don't reach their full potential because they aren't committed to that continuous growth. They fear looking bad if they struggle.
Makes sense. And this carries right over into business and leadership too, I bet. The source talks about different styles there.
Absolutely. A leader with a strong fixed mindset might see themselves as, the genius, the visionary. Their focus is often on judging whether their employees are talented rather than developing that talent.
Like sorting people into fixed categories.
Kind of. And this can create a really negative culture, a culture of fear almost. People are afraid to speak up, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to take risks, because mistakes are seen as revealing incompetence. The book points to the culture at Enron as a stark example of this.
Because messing up is seen as a personal flaw, not a chance to learn.
Precisely. Now contrast that with a growth mindset leader. They believe in the potential for growth in everyone. They see their role as developing people, coaching them.
More like a gardener cultivating potential.
That's a great analogy. They foster collaboration, encourage smart risk-taking, and crucially, they frame setbacks or failures as learning opportunities for the entire team or organization. They build resilience.
That sounds like a much more dynamic and, frankly, productive environment. And the book even takes this into our personal lives, into relationships. How does that work?
Yeah, it applies there too. A fixed mindset in relationships can lead to this belief in finding the perfect partner, the soulmate, the relationship that just is perfect from the start.
The fairy tale idea?
Kind of. And so when problems inevitably pop up, because they always do in real relationships, someone with this mindset might see it as a sign, proof that it's fundamentally wrong or that their partner isn't the one.
So they might jump ship at the first sign of real trouble.
They might be quicker to, yeah. Because the problems aren't seen as challenges to overcome together. They're seen as flaws in the destined perfection.
Okay, so the growth mindset approach.
That perspective understands that both people and the relationship itself can grow and change. Problems aren't deal breakers, they're opportunities. Opportunities to communicate better, to put in effort, to learn about each other, to adapt together.
So you see the relationship as something you actively build and nurture, not just something you find ready-made.
Exactly. It's about working through things, believing that effort can make the relationship stronger. It applies to friendships, family, everything.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective for personal connections, and sort of weaving through all these examples is the role of, the key influencers, parents, teachers, coaches.
Yes, their impact circles. Right back to that praise research we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The source really emphasizes that their most important job isn't just spotting existing talent. It's about fostering that love of learning, that resilience.
By focusing the feedback again.
Precisely. Focusing feedback on the process. The effort someone puts in, the strategies they try, their perseverance when things get tough. That's what guides people towards embracing challenges and actually enjoying the journey of getting better.
Okay, so after hearing all this, the big question for you listening is probably, okay, great, but can I change my mindset? Am I just stuck?
And the answer, thankfully, is absolutely not. The book lays out a really practical path for actively cultivating more of a growth mindset. It's definitely a process, not like flipping a switch overnight, but it's completely doable.
All right, let's get practical. Walk us through those steps. How does someone actually start making this shift?
Okay, step one is basically awareness. Just noticing. Notice and accept. Recognize that, hey, everyone has fixed mindset thoughts sometimes, even people who generally operate from growth. It's not about being purely one or the other.
So just acknowledging that critical inner voice when it pops up, not judging it, just seeing it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to step two. Understand your triggers. Start paying attention to when that fixed mindset voice gets loudest for you. What situations tend to set it off?
Like maybe it's getting critical feedback, or failing at something new, or comparing yourself to someone else.
Could be any of those. Facing a really big challenge, knowing your personal triggers helps you anticipate it. Okay, here comes that feeling.
Makes sense. What's next?
Step three is kind of fun. Name your fixed mindset persona.
Give it a name.
Yeah, give that voice the one that's fearful or insecure or defensive. Give it a nickname, like Cranky Carl or the Judge or whatever resonates.
Okay, I can picture that. Why does naming it help?
It helps you separate from it. To see it as like a character or a part of your thinking you can observe, rather than just being you. It externalizes it a bit, gives you some distance.
Okay, got my name picked out. All right, step 4.
So 4 is educate it. Talk back to that persona. When your Cranky Carl starts up with fixed mindset talk, you'll never figure this out, or don't even try, you'll look stupid.
Yeah.
You consciously respond from a growth mindset perspective.
Like having an internal dialogue.
Pretty much. You can acknowledge the fear or concern that persona is expressing. Okay, Carl, I hear you're worried about failing. But then gently counter it. Frame it as inviting that part of you onto the learning journey. But remember, this is a chance to learn, not a final judgment. Effort is how we get better.
So you're not fighting it, but kind of reasoning with it, guiding it.
Exactly. You're teaching that part of your brain a different way to react. And that leads directly to step 5. Take growth-oriented action.
Put it into practice.
Yes. This is where the rubber meets the road. Consciously choose to do things that align with a growth mindset. Lean into a challenge you might normally avoid. Actively seek out feedback. Yes, even critical feedback, and try to learn from it. Make a point of appreciating the effort you put in and the effort others put in. Focus on the process.
So it's like a cycle.
hmm
Notice the fixed thought, identify the trigger, recognize the named persona, talk back with a growth perspective, then act in a growth way.
You got it. It takes practice, absolutely. You're essentially retraining your brain's default responses in those trigger situations, but it's a learnable skill.
It really is a powerful framework. Knowing about these mindsets isn't just interesting theory. It feels like it gives you actual agency. Agency over how you learn, how you handle setbacks, how you view your own potential.
It really does. This deep dive into Dr. Dweck's work really hammers home that potential isn't some fixed ceiling we're stuck under.
Yeah.
It's something we actively construct.
Yeah, constructed through how we approach challenges, how willing we are to put in the effort, and crucially, how we choose to learn from the inevitable struggles.
Those moments of struggle, the hard parts, they often turn out to be the most valuable opportunities for growth if you approach them with that growth lens.
So maybe the next time you hit one of those walls or feel that hesitation about trying something difficult, you can pause. Just pause for a second and ask yourself, which mindset is talking right now?
And can you choose consciously to respond with that voice of not yet, to frame it as a learning curve instead of a final verdict?
Definitely something to think about. And maybe leave you with this thought. If your potential really isn't set in stone, but is something you cultivate through effort and learning, what's something you've previously written off? Something you thought, oh, I'm just not good at that. Could you maybe see that very thing, not as a limitation, but as your next big opportunity, your next chance to really stretch yourself and grow? What challenge are you ready to redefine?